When I handed my husband the divorce papers, he thought I was just throwing a tantrum. With a helpless smile, he said, "Aren't we a bit too old for you to be acting like a child needing my coaxing?" I turned my back on him and got into another man's car, right in front of him. No matter how furious or shocked he was, I didn't look back. Yes, we're too old for him to still be playing the hero, saving a damsel in distress. He braved a level 18 typhoon, abandoning his wife of 10 years just to protect his so-called soulmate. He might not care about his dignity, but I still care about mine. Chapter 1. After the typhoon passed and the signal came back, I found a flood of unread messages. None of them were from my husband. After politely replying to concerned friends, I sent him 2 simple words: divorce. Then I grabbed my suitcase and walked out the door. The world outside was a wreck, devastated by the storm. As I stepped over fallen debris on the road, my heart grew colder with every step. Ryan had rushed out into the typhoon without a second thought, all because of a tearful phone call from his precious soulmate. "Lydia, what's wrong with you?" After days of silence, he finally had the nerve to call, launching straight into a tirade the second I picked up. "Didn't I tell you to stay home? How childish can you be? People are going to laugh at you. Evan was my best friend. Now that he's gone, I can't just leave his wife and kid behind." His tone softened as he added, "Chloe is pregnant, so I've been taking care of her these past few days. I didn't mean to ignore your feelings. I'll make it up to you when I get back." I cut him off. "Then hurry up and come back, so we can get divorced." He seemed like he had more to say, but I hung up. When he called again, I blocked him. Then came the texts. Long-winded messages about his brotherly bond with the late Evan, how hard life was for Evan's widow, Chloe, now pregnant with his child, and how important it was to be kind. I replied with 5 words. "What does that matter to me?" That shut him up. I finally found a shared electric bike and rode to Kiki's place. When Kiki opened the door, her eyes widened. "I was just about to come find you. Look at the message I sent." It was a photo taken in a hospital. A visibly pregnant woman, and a man crouched beside her, resting his cheek against her belly, smiling tenderly. What a happy little family. If only the man wasn't my husband. I deleted Ryan's number. Kiki gave me a worried look. "Are you okay?" I shook my head and mumbled, embarrassed. "Can I crash here for a few days?" "Of course," Kiki said without hesitation. That night, she noticed my foot was badly swollen and gasped. I had heard it during an argument with Ryan when he insisted on leaving during the typhoon. Things got physical, and I ended up with a bruised foot. I reached down to touch it, wincing at the sharp pain. I'd known it was bad, but I can handle pain, so I told her it was nothing. Kiki wasn't having it. "We're going to the hospital tomorrow. And we're gonna give that cheating bastard and his girl a piece of our minds." But the next day, news came that work was resuming, so Kiki had to go back to her job. She made me promise to get my foot checked and stir up some trouble with Ryan. I had no interest in causing a scene, but as luck would have it, I ran into Ryan anyway. Chapter 2. He was applying olive oil to Chloe's belly. The woman, dressed in a hospital gown, lay flat with her rounded stomach exposed, and Ryan's hand gently massaged it. Something he had never done for me. Chloe seemed ticklish, unable to suppress her smile, even playfully pushing his hand away. Ryan tapped her lightly on the head. "Don't move." I glanced at the sign on the door. It wasn't even the maternity ward. Deciding to leave, I was spotted by Chloe. "Lydia!" Her voice was cheerful, clearly delighted to see me. She struggled to sit up but couldn't manage on her own, and Ryan quickly helped her, so delicately, as if afraid she might break. I stopped at the doorway, my expression blank. Chloe's face turned pink as she spoke shyly. "Lydia, I don't know what I would have done without Ryan. When I get out of here, I must treat you both to dinner." Ryan smiled softly at her and said, "Just focus on taking care of yourself. You can treat us once you've had a safe delivery." Chloe nodded sweetly. I let out a cold laugh and turned to leave. I hadn't taken more than a few steps when Ryan chased after me. His large hand gripped my arm, spinning me around. My swollen ankle throbbed under the pressure, and I hissed in pain, frowning. Ryan immediately let go. He hesitated, then frowned. Did I use too much force? Stop pretending. How did you even find this place? Have you been tracking my phone? Too pained to argue, I pinched him hard. See how that feels? Ryan yanked his hand back, disbelief crossing his face. You're impossible. Chloe appeared at the doorway, looking worried. Lydia, Ryan, are you two arguing because of me? She approached slowly, looking sad and guilty. I'm so sorry for being such a burden. Lydia, don't be upset. Ryan is a good man, you should treasure him. I sneered. Of course, he's a good man to you. Go ahead and treasure him yourself. I've got better things to do than interrupt your little romance. Chloe looked devastated, clutching her chest, as if she might faint. At that moment, an emergency cart barreled down the hallway toward us. Move aside. Someone called out. Ryan instinctively shielded Chloe, backing against the wall. Meanwhile, I couldn't dodge quickly enough. My good foot slipped on a wet patch on the floor, sending me crashing to the ground. Are you all right? Be careful. A nurse rushed over, helping me to my feet before hurrying off after the emergency cart. See? Even strangers are more helpful than my own husband. I glanced at Ryan. Under his embarrassed gaze, I struggled to stand. You two have fun. I said flatly, limping towards my intended department. Ryan hesitated for a moment before calling after me. I'll make sure she's settled, then I'll come with you to see the doctor. I didn't respond. While waiting, I glanced out the window. No one came. When it was my turn, the doctor examined my foot and asked about the injury. I explained everything. The doctor prescribed medication and gave me instructions, then sent me on my way. When I exited the room, Ryan was already there waiting. He handed me a bottle of safflower herbal oil. It was my fault for not noticing your injury, he said naturally. What did the doctor say? I didn't take the oil, nor did I reply. My coldness clearly stung him. He bit back his frustration and said, I'll get the car and take you home. Without waiting for a response, he turned and hurried off. I clutched my prescription, just watching. If it were Chloe, he'd never leave her side. As I passed by Chloe's room again, she leaned against the door with a smile. Lydia, did Ryan give you the safflower oil? Chapter 3. She covered her mouth, laughing even harder. Men are so careless, Lydia. Don't hold it against Ryan. He went to buy safflower oil for my swelling, but I can't use it because I'm pregnant. I saw your foot was swollen, so I told him to give it to you. Otherwise, who knows when he'd notice your injury. Yes, he was attentive enough to notice her swelling and eagerly went to buy medicine for her. He massaged her to prevent stretch marks, but he didn't see my injury. Even his care for me was just using what she couldn't. I forced a smile. I'm not angry. I was just heartbroken. If his care was only for her, then I didn't want him anymore. So, standing in front of Ryan's car, I said seriously, let's get divorced. Ryan laughed, but I knew that was a sign of his anger. You're always throwing tantrums. You've got no sense of perspective. He sneered. I'm saving people and you stop me. I'm looking after someone sick and you get mad. You're always talking about divorce. Do you think you're still in your 20s? When you were 20, I didn't even like you. Now you're 40, and you expect me to care? Don't forget, you were the one begging to be with me. For all these years, you've been obedient, but now you're acting up. Do you really think you can handle a divorce? I looked at him calmly. Ryan gave me a mocking glance and said, I'm done with you. Get a cab. Then he drove off. At this hour, where could I find a cab? I should have known that my reckless love for him in my youth had turned into a bitter brew, only growing stronger with time. Yes, I had pursued Ryan with all my heart. My life had been suffocating, and his carefree, confident demeanor was a fatal attraction for me. I orchestrated countless chance encounters, glancing back at him time and time again. His friends all knew I liked him. Perhaps after endless teasing, he mistook his feelings for me, and that's why he agreed to be with me. But what's forced can never truly belong to you. His secret accounts were filled with hidden affections. All his unspeakable love was for another man's wife. Ryan loved Chloe. I had known, and I had cared. But it was laughable that I'd been jealous of something in the past. Now I realized it wasn't me who couldn't let go. It was him. Once I understood that, I felt relieved. I took my bank card to withdraw money. Even though we had struggled financially, we had a significant savings. If it hadn't been for the divorce, I might never have touched that money. Handing over the card felt like relinquishing the last piece of my suffering, but it was returned to me. My face went pale. There was no money in the account. The compensation for my son's death, every penny of it was gone. A cold wave washed over me, and my hands shook as I dialed Ryan's number. Chapter 4. No response. The withdrawal was for medical expenses. The clerk explained, noticing my distress. I felt a bitter irony. Who else could be hospitalized? I didn't know how I returned to the hospital. I just knew I needed an explanation and my money back. Ryan had said he was going home, yet here he was, still at the hospital. Next to him were bags of familiar items, things I had bought to get us through the typhoon. Now, outside of places like hospitals, everything was shut down. Even if you had money, you couldn't get anything. He had gone home just to get these. He didn't see me as he rummaged through the bags, finding some Hawthorne snacks and carefully feeding them to Chloe. A girl with a broken leg in the same room watched enviously. I wish I could find a husband like that. You're so lucky. My boyfriend is like a dead fish. In such special circumstances, they shared a room. The girl hadn't seen me before. Ryan, unashamed, said boastfully, "Break up with him. What's the use of a man without responsibilities? Next time, find someone good, like me." Chloe blushed, her voice sweet. "Men like you are rare." I sneered and entered. "No, they're not. Other men neglect their wives and kids out of laziness, but you do it out of sheer depravity." Ryan looked annoyed. "Have you had enough?" A slap interrupted him. Ryan instinctively covered his face, looking at me. "Are you crazy?" A backhand followed. I slapped my bank card against his face, demanding, "Where's the money?" Ryan was about to explode but went silent seeing the card. Chloe hurriedly intervened, pulling my hand. "Lydia, it's my fault. If I hadn't had such a difficult pregnancy, Ryan wouldn't have. I'll pay you back." I resisted the urge to push her away, looking at her anxious face, and said coldly, "Of course, you will. If not, I'll sue you for fraud." Ryan protested. "What fraud? I willingly helped. That money was just sitting there, better used to help her keep the baby. It's Evan's only child. Don't you have any compassion?" He actually said that? What did he mean by just sitting there? My anger surged. Seeing him and Chloe's closeness didn't hurt as much as his words. Our son had shielded him in the accident, dying young. Ryan had been guilt-ridden, deeply sorrowful. I was devastated. We never mentioned the compensation, agreeing never to touch it. It represented our son's life, a painful reminder. As his father, how could he say such heartless words? My anger dissipated. He wouldn't regret it. Further questions were pointless. I lost all energy. Not wanting to see him anymore, I turned to leave. Seeing my defeat, Ryan coaxed, "People can't come back from the dead. We must move on." I arranged with Chloe. After the baby's born, we'll raise it together. It'll be like having our son back. Chapter 5. I stared at him, stunned. I couldn't believe what he said. Noise filled my ears. My head spun. Chen Zoran, sporting 2 fresh handprints, brushed my hair gently, his expression tender. I wanted to surprise you, so I didn't tell you earlier. We're both heartbroken over our son's death. I can't stand seeing you so broken. Raising Zuxin's child together will be just like having our son back. I trembled violently. Looking around, I saw nothing suitable to end him with. Before I could react, an apple smacked his head. Are you kidding me? How can there be such a despicable man in the world? A sharp voice shouted. It was the girl who had envied their love. I stood in shock as she brandished her phone, readying another apple. Move aside. I stepped back. Zhang Zuxin panicked, trying to grab the phone. What are you doing? We'll call the police. The girl sneered. Oh please, just because you're pregnant doesn't mean I won't hit you. Chaos ensued. Chen Zoran, looking sinister, threatened. Young lady, it's not wise to be rash. Delete the video now, and we won't press charges. I stepped in front of the girl, taunting. So you know you're in the wrong. Ashamed of what you've done. Bullying a young girl? You think you're a big man? The girl laughed coldly. Delete what video? I've been live streaming. Zhang Zuxin gasped, her face pale. She clutched her belly, weeping. No, this can't be, we meant well. Chen Zoran glared at us, urgently helping Zhang Zuxin. I'll handle this. Calm down. Let's get you checked. Zhang Zuxin wept in his arms as they left. I looked at the girl's leg, puzzled. You! She grinned, pulling off a prop. Just a disguise. After explaining, I learned her name was Miss He, a marketing expert. She'd noticed the viral video of Chen Zoran rescuing Zhang Zuxin and sensed a story. To gather material, she infiltrated the hospital. She showed me her phone album, offering to share the videos and photos for my divorce case. One photo caught my eye. Wait, this person. I flipped back to a recent photo. I recognized him. Lin Yao. I gasped. Chapter 6. Miss He was puzzled. You know him? Of course, I did. My husband's so-called best friend. When was this taken? I asked. The man in the photo, dirty and disheveled, lay unconscious. Miss He explained. I just took it recently. I was shocked and asked for details. Apparently, Miss He had heard about a ship rescuing a wild man and called an ambulance. She arrived early to capture the scene. In a short time, the marketing post had gone viral. I recalled seeing an emergency cart earlier. The man on it was Lin Yao. The irony struck me. His wife was cozying up to his best friend while he lay near death. Miss He, you're going to be famous, I said, heading to the information desk. Claiming to be a friend, I inquired about the wild man. Lin Yao hadn't died. He'd been swept to an island, surviving harsh conditions until a fishing boat found him. Zhikin. He scratched his head, embarrassed. Can I borrow your phone? I need to let Zuxin know I'm safe. Miss He gasped. Zuxin? The same Zuxin. Lin Yao was confused by her reaction, while I nodded at Miss He. Her face turned sympathetic, and she hesitated. Seeing our silent exchange, Lin Yao felt uneasy. I didn't want to prolong his agony. Let me call Zhang Zuxin. After several rings, the call connected. Chen Zoran's breathless voice answered. What do you want? I froze, seeing the screen indeed showed Zhang Zuxin's account. Lin Yao's eyes widened, realizing the situation, and tried to grab the phone. Miss He quickly restrained him, signaling for silence. Lin Yao's veins bulged as he struggled to stay quiet. Ignoring him, I asked, What are you doing? Chen Zoran sighed. What do you think? The hospital's full, so I brought Zuxin home. After that drama, she's exhausted. She fell asleep in the car, so I carried her to bed. I told you, nothing's going on between us. But she was someone I once liked. With Lin Yao gone, how could I leave her pregnant and alone? Lin Yao, supposedly dead, seemed struck by lightning, unable to speak. I hadn't noticed his reaction, focusing instead on the contradiction. Did you bring her home or take her home? Chen Zoran, exasperated, replied. Our home, of course. Don't worry, she's not in your bed. She's in our son's room. Maybe his spirit lingers, and he'll be reborn through her. Think of her child as ours. Furious, I shouted. Chen Zoran. I curse your ancestors. Chapter 7. Chen Zoran didn't hear me. He hung up after speaking. Lin Yao, enraged, seemed ready to tear out his four and confront them. I urged him to stay calm, reminding him that Zhang Zuxin was still pregnant. He couldn't act rashly. But tears welled in his eyes. I didn't cheat. That child isn't mine. This revelation stunned me. Though I had no concrete proof of Chen Zoran's infidelity, this confirmed it. Recalling Chen Zoran's behavior, I felt disgusted. Miss He scribbled furiously in her notebook. I consoled Lin Yao, urging him to recover. After surviving such an ordeal, his health was paramount. As for revenge, I had a plan. Returning to Kiki's, I told her what happened. Excited, Kiki shared her divorce lawyer details, recommending her lawyer from her own divorce. I reached out, only to find he had relocated, but his protege, who was in town for training, could take my case. I didn't mind. I contacted the new lawyer, Zhu Li, and scheduled a meeting. Feeling somewhat relieved, I rested for a few days. Then, Zhang Zuxin posted a 9-photo collage on social media. The caption read, I could have endured the darkness if you had not shown me the light. The photos showed a desk now cluttered with pregnancy items. In the corner, my son's frame lay shattered in the trash. I rushed back home and burst through the door. Chen Zoran sneered. I thought you moved out? Can't stay away? Ignoring him, I stormed into my son's room. Zhang Zuxin screamed as I grabbed the frame, but I ignored her and retrieved my son's photo. Only holding his picture did my heart calm down. I turned to leave, tossing the broken frame at Chen Zoran. Could you have respected our son even a little? I seethed, rage boiling over. Chen Zoran, rubbing his face, grumbled. The dead can't come back. We need to move on. If you're so upset, I'll set up the study for Zuxin. I laughed coldly. No need. Do whatever makes you happy. I left, only taking my son's photo. A few days later, mutual friends contacted me. Chen Zoran was planning a birthday party for Zhang Zuxin at our house and inviting everyone. A married man throwing a party for a pregnant friend was suspicious enough. I told those who asked me about it. If you want to see a show, go. There will be drama. I also informed Lin Yao. Be ready. I said. Chapter 8. Zhang Zuxin's birthday was the day before my wedding anniversary. Years ago, she had accepted Lin Yao's proposal on this day. Chen Zoran had gotten drunk and insisted we get married the next day. I hadn't known the significance then and thought it was sudden but agreed. Later, when Zhang Zuxin jokingly mentioned it, I felt a deep turmoil. Now, I wanted her birthday to be unforgettable for other reasons. I arrived, and many guests were already there. Their looks ranged from curious to mocking to awkward. Feigning ignorance, I smiled. Everyone's here? Chen Zoran pulled me aside, whispering. Don't cause trouble. A friend eager for drama, teased. Hey Zoran, is your wife here to crash the party? Chen Zoran, embarrassed, was at a loss for words. I smiled. Zoran is a loyal, responsible man. Why would I cause trouble? Chen Zoran, unprepared for my response, looked touched. The friend was speechless. I turned to Zhang Zuxin. Zuxin, I brought you a special gift. The doorbell rang. Someone near the door opened it, not paying attention, and offered a chair. "Sit, enjoy the show." Lin Yao's voice came. "Thanks, but I have business." The person almost fell off their chair in shock. Lin Yao stepped in, glaring at Chen Zurin. "Darling!" Zhang Zuxin exclaimed. Lin Yao grabbed Chen Zurin's shoulder, his voice full of contempt. "Isn't he your husband?" Chen Zurin hastily defended. "Lin Yao, you've heard rumors. I'm just helping out." Ignoring Zhang Zuxin's pale face, Lin Yao punched Chen Zurin, sending him reeling. The room erupted in chaos. Lin Yao laughed bitterly. "Should I demand a paternity test for her child?" Grabbing Chen Zurin's hair, he forced him to face Zhang Zuxin. "Taking care of my wife? You should be ashamed." Zhang Zuxin approached, tearfully pleading. "Lin Yao, let me explain." Lin Yao dismissed her. "No need. Live your life with your new husband." He left without looking back. Chen Zurin struggled to stand, only to find me standing before him. The room buzzed with murmurs and laughter. Chen Zurin's chest heaved as he lunged at me. "You wretch! Why didn't you tell me sooner?" Zhang Zuxin sobbed. "It's over. Everything is ruined. I can't go on." I stepped back, avoiding his grasp, finding my past judgment questionable. I presented a fresh set of divorce papers. "Chen Zurin, congratulations. You've got what you wanted." Turning to Zhang Zuxin, I smiled. "And happy birthday." Chapter 9. Leaving Lin Yao to handle his affairs, I focused on mine. Chen Zurin and Zhang Zuxin were oblivious to their viral fame. Miss He had initially held off posting the twist, instead using company resources to boost their heroic love story. Then, she released the hospital confrontation videos. Her detailed timeline and character breakdowns hit the internet hard. The backlash was fierce, and the public felt deceived. Chen Zurin and Zhang Zuxin became infamous. I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. Meeting Zhu Li, I arrived early at the cafe, enjoying the aroma. A slim figure approached. I looked up, seeing a familiar yet changed face. He said, "Sis, long time no see." My expression was complex as he sat down, scrutinizing him. He had grown taller, thinner, and his voice had changed. Our mother had died giving birth to him. I had rushed to the hospital to see a weak, barely breathing baby. Our neglectful father had shown no interest, leaving us to fend for ourselves. I raised him with our mother's meager savings and neighbors' help. I dropped out of high school to work and support us. He had tearfully promised to take care of me forever. But then, the Zhu family found us presenting a DNA test and took him away. His mother had swapped babies to ensure his survival, and now they wanted both children. They compensated me with money and arranged for me to finish school. He had cried, begging me not to abandon him. But he didn't understand that staying with me would mean no future. Only with the Zhu family could he have a decent life. "I never expected it to be you," I said lightly. "What a coincidence." I felt embarrassed by my current state. His voice was gentle. "I saw your name and asked for this case. Sis, I promised to take care of you, and I still mean it." His words broke my composure. I had forgotten how it felt to have family warmth. A mother who favored sons, a negligent father, a husband who loved another, and a son who died young. I cried silently. Zhu Li knelt by my side, resting his head on my lap, silently comforting me. This scene was witnessed by Chen Zurin, who entered. He clenched his fists, eyes red, but instead of anger, he approached, calling softly, "Honey, when are you coming home?" Gossiping eyes turned towards us. Emboldened, Chen Zurin pleaded, "Come home. I know I was wrong. Don't let this young man deceive you." I laughed. "You ignore your pregnant mistress but lecture me? Did you even look at the divorce papers?" Chen Zurin pulled out crumpled papers, tearing them apart. He knelt, clutching my clothes. I won't divorce. You promised to love me forever. I pulled out another set of papers, handing them over. Take your time tearing them. I have plenty. Chapter 10. Chen Zoran accepted the papers, setting them aside with a helpless smile. Aren't you too old to need coaxing like a child? Glancing at Zhu Li, he warned. Young men just want your money. Don't come crying to me when you're scammed. Zhu Li pulled out his phone and a notification sounded on mine. You've received $50,000. Zhu Li smiled, taking my hand. Sis, come with me. I'll treat you well. Ignoring the stunned Chen Zoran, he led me out. Behind us, Chen Zoran's desperate shout echoed. How can you not believe me? Zhang Zuxin and I are innocent. My hand paused on the car door. But I didn't look back. Innocent or not, it didn't matter anymore. I no longer cared. In the car, I transferred the money back to Zhu Li and changed all my passwords. Chen Zoran likely tracked me through them. Even if he doesn't sign, we can win in court. Zhu Li assured. I smiled and nodded. Divorce might be tedious, but nothing is impossible. Lin Yao's situation was simpler. Though he had a death certificate, it nullified his marriage. No divorce needed. Chen Zoran, however, refused to sign. He sought me out on every platform, starting with disbelief and moving to realization of my seriousness. I ignored his calls, blocking each new number. He spread rumors online, accusing me of infidelity. Trolls claimed both of us were at fault but justified a man's infidelity while condemning a woman's. They even attacked Zhu Li's firm. Zhu Li responded by posting an old photo of us as children and a recent one. The caption read, "My sister is being slandered." The scandal died down. Chen Zoran faced renewed public scorn. He confirmed his involvement, though I already knew. It was just him lashing out. Friends told me Zhang Zuxin's child might not be his. After the birthday fiasco, he confronted her, but she couldn't explain. So, there was more to the story. No wonder he clung to me. I told my friends there was no going back. Word got to Chen Zoran, and he finally agreed to divorce. On the day I got the divorce certificate, the weather turned chilly. I received my rightful share of the compensation and assets. Holding the red certificate, it felt appropriate. Divorce had become a celebration. Chen Zoran, looking lost, asked where I would live. Zhu Li wrapped a new scarf around my neck, ignoring Chen Zoran, and said warmly, "Sis, let's go home." I nodded, getting into the car. Looking back, Chen Zoran stood rooted in place. Zhu Li squeezed my hand, smiling. "It's over. You have me now." As the plane ascended into the clouds, I looked at the shrinking earth, feeling like it was all yesterday. 3 months later, Kiki told me Zhang Zuxin had given birth. Chen Zoran posted a paternity test, proving the child wasn't his. The father's identity remained a mystery. Lin Yao had returned to the Navy, rarely visiting the island. Life moved on, and past faces faded. The future was long, and those from the past were left behind.